Good afternoon and welcome to Blue Sunday. I'm your regular host, Joseph Lutzer, here in Bangkok. I've just happened to make it. I've just walked in the door. I'm sorry if I'm all hot, sweaty. I'm going to get off in a minute and just fix myself up. Joining me tonight, as usual, is my partner in crime.
How are you, Joe?
I haven't introduced you yet.
Oh, don't worry about the big introduction. Vince Lochisano, everyone knows who I am by now.
I don't. Former president of the Carltonians and Carlton Life member, Mr. Vince Lochisano. How are you, Vince?
Thank you very much, Joe, for that wonderful introduction. Yes, I'm not bad for someone who's just gone through watching a Collingwood premiership. Dear me, us Carlton supporters must be thinking it could have been us. It could have been us. But anyway, you got to give credit where credit's due. They did what they had to do to stay in front, and when the final siren sounded, they were in front. So they've now joined Carlton and Essendon on 16 VFL/AFL premierships. So the rivalry between those three clubs will be as hot as ever from now on.
It's an absolute disgrace, Vince. I don't know what to say. I really don't. I was just telling Peter, who we'll introduce in a minute off air, I can proudly say that I watched 0 minutes of the game. 0.
Okay.
Instead, I was washing elephants and feeding elephants in an elephant retreat in Koh Samui. Can I tell you? And I had the radio in my ear, and every so often I'd go, fuck. And everyone would look around. My customers would look around me and go, what's wrong? And I go, oh, no, nothing. Okay. When the Lions got 2 goals up, I thought, come on, boys, let's go. But no, they let us down. Anyway,
it could have gone either way, but it was a classic grand final. It'll certainly go down as one of the greatest of all time in terms of excitement and intensity and closeness of scores right throughout and all that sort of thing. But anyway,
I don't think so.
Yeah, it will. It will.
I don't know. I'll
bit
watch
like
it
the Sydney West Coast one from 2005 and 2006. They were both single-digit margins in the end, and any grand final that finishes with less than a goal between the two sides is more than likely going to be a classic.
Yeah. Okay. Before we go on, I haven't seen any of the pre-match entertainment, halftime entertainment. I listened to SEN last night when I was in bed, actually, and I was listening to all these talkback callers. Maybe what we'll do. Well, let's get a bit of admin done, and then let's bring Peter in early, and he can. Okay. I'm going to ask him the question too.
No worries.
So, as you know, we are a YouTube, Facebook channel. So, if you're looking to subscribe, share on Facebook, we're at Blue Sunday, and on YouTube, we're on the Jumper Punch channel, but the show is called Blue Sunday. So, look, if you're not already a member, or you don't like or share, get as many as you can. Look, we started the year at about 20 people, and I think at last count we were at 1,300. So that's pretty good. Pretty good.
Absolutely.
I also would like to say that this show is proudly brought to you by my company, Retired Working For You Tours. I've just come back from a tour of southern Thailand. Absolutely fantastic time. Didn't have to watch any of the Collingwood skullduggery. I hear they cheated as usual. It's the only way they can win a premiership. But anyway, I'll watch it. I've listened to Collingwood supporters say it was right. I've listened to Brisbane supporters say it's wrong. I've listened to neutral supporters say it's right and wrong. So I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, so now that we have all of that out the way, can I bring on our favourite special comments person, Carlton 1979 utility player, premiership player, Mr. Peter Brown. Peter, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Joseph. Good evening, Vince. How are we, boys?
Joseph, have I done something wrong?
No. You haven't done anything wrong yet.
Yet.
Brownie's looking nice and casual there in his what would you call it? Bone-coloured beige-coloured top there, looking very summery. seeing it was such a beautiful summery day yesterday, Brownie, and it was actually a nice day in Melbourne today too. Not quite as hot, but 29 degrees for the grand final, one of the hottest of all time. Probably the hottest since the Carlton Premiership over Hawthorn in 1987.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? I was expecting the acclimatisation of Brisbane to perhaps shine through in that last quarter when the legs were getting a bit tired and stuff like that. But as you saw with the footage, and Joe didn't see any of the footage, obviously, but I watched the game right through, and
me too.
I thought Collingwood, particularly in that last quarter, were able to control things fairly well, even though it was a very close game. And, from my point of view, and I heard your comment before, Vince, about the fact that it'll go down as one of the great grand finals, and I agree with that. I think that the AFL would be absolutely delighted with that that result. Usually, by three-quarter time, it's usually starting to blow out or something like that in terms of score, but this had everything in it.
Chalk and cheese compared to last year when Geelong blew Sydney out of the water very early, and we pretty much knew the winner at quarter time. But this one was a classic. It was tight all the way through. I think the 10-point margin at quarter time was the largest of any of the breaks, and I think the largest margin throughout the whole game might have been. I think at one stage the Lions got up to 13 points up.
Yeah,
not sure if Collingwood were much above that.
No, I don't think they were.
It was only ever a couple of goals in it.
Interestingly enough, just before quarter time and just before halftime, Collingwood kicked vital goals, which gave them the momentum going into both quarter time and obviously halftime huddle. So, and the statistic that everyone throws up at three-quarter time, if you're behind at three-quarter time, traditionally you don't win the game, or very rarely you do. Even though it was very, very tight in the last quarter, I still think that Brisbane had their chances, and along with some of the other forward thrusts with Collingwood, they could have scored a bit more. I think the score flattered it a little bit. I mean, Collingwood did kick a lot of points, and and a lot of the commentary through the game was it could come back to haunt them. But no, they found a way to get through, and they found a way to win, as they do. A 4-point margin, it doesn't matter whether it's 4 point, 1 point, or 10 goals. At the end of the day, you won the game. So, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, was it a free kick? I've been listening and looking at it all morning in the paper. They're saying that Collingwood, or the Brisbane player got ripped off or something. Or I don't know.
Right towards the end there, Lachie Neale was clearly legged, and the umpire paid the free kick. He'd already hand passed the ball away by this stage to, I think it might have been Zach Bailey, who then disposed of the ball. But rather than calling the ball back because there was no advantage, I mean, he initially paid advantage, but there was no advantage. And we've seen umpires for years always recall the ball if there's no clear advantage. But he didn't. He let the play go, and that's what the Brisbane people were up in arms about, is that Lachie Neale should have been given that free kick. The advantage should not have been paid, and even if it was paid, it should have been recalled back to him to then deliver the ball into the forward line. And as a result, Collingwood got the ball back out of defence, and it wasn't of any advantage to Brisbane at all.
Interestingly enough, there's been a lot of those sort of situations this year where advantage was paid and there was really no clear advantage. And yet, last week, Patrick Cripps took a ball and thought he had the advantage and buggered me dead if we weren't pinged for a 50-metre penalty. And it's one of those rules which are obviously going to have to be improved going into the next year. The other thing that I'd like to highlight, guys, is that in a very, very important game, which is the last game of the year, Vince is having trouble hearing us again, by the look of it.
Vince, you've gone off again. We can't hear you. Yeah, okay.
Vince will come back to us, I'd say. Yeah, the other thing that I was going to highlight, Joe, was the most important game in the season, and field umpires cannot bounce a ball. So controversially, it looks like now they could call for no longer bouncing the ball for the start of the game, nor after a score. It could end up being a throw-up rather than bouncing the ball. You with us, Vince?
Yeah, I'm back. I don't know what happened there. I got cut out all of a sudden. I couldn't hear a thing. I noticed we're getting some comments there, Joe. I think we don't need to prompt our audience anymore to pitch in with their comments and questions and feedback. But great to see all of our regulars back with us tonight for our last show of the year.
So as I told you, I didn't see it, right? So I've heard all these people, it's in the top 5 grand finals. I think it's only because of the score. I mean,
I disagree.
I don't think.
I disagree. I disagree totally, Joe. I think that the whole spectacle of the grand final, the entertainment, obviously the game, the build-up, and the result. It could have gone either way, and we all know that and accept that. But I think that will go down as one of the greats, and even to the point where the parade the day before was
huge success.
Yeah, massive success.
And one of the reasons why? It's because the route was changed to no longer include city streets and roads like St Kilda Road or anything like that, or anything around Parliament House. Well, they started it at Melbourne Park, just down from the Rod Laver Arena, further down towards Richmond. And they started it there, and then they went all around that area and then up the Gardens and over the Yarra and then back around to the MCG. And there was huge numbers of people. So, yes, I agree. That was a huge success.
Yeah. Okay.
And especially after the debacle of last year with the silly boats and barges that they had going down the Yarra River and no one could see anything.
I think that's great.
It's interesting, Joe. The comment that is clearly coming through, even on the Sunday Footy Show and comments that are coming around the place. I think the game has actually changed forever now. I think the way that Collingwood has approached this game, and obviously the season with the inclusive of family and friends and enjoying the process rather than being miserable and all of that sort of thing.
And rather than all this tension in the rooms before the game, they tried to relax the players and make them laugh. And I've never seen a group of players that had so many smiles on their faces and carrying on and laughing before the start of a grand final.
Yeah, well, once upon a time, and when I played, it was a very, very serious matter. I mean, if you were caught laughing, you got your ass kicked and probably dropped. Whereas now, they're encouraging that, and they're obviously the way that they're approaching it, and obviously being able to accept the fact that this is a thing that only comes around once in a blue moon, and you've got to embrace it and possibly use it to your advantage. And I thought Collingwood actually used that to their advantage a lot better. I don't know whether there were some mind games going on, but I think Brisbane actually hit the ground earlier than what Collingwood did. And when Collingwood came out, Brisbane were, I guess, probably really concentrating and being, wrapped up in the moment rather than understanding what sort of embrace the Collingwood players actually produced going out. So, interestingly enough, it's worked for Collingwood, and good luck to them. They've got the silverware, and as you said before, Vince, now it's going to be hot at the top of the tree. Essendon, Carlton, and now Collingwood. So all on.
Yeah, I think. By the way, we will talk Carlton very shortly, but I guess it is relevant to talk about the grand final, seeing it's only just happened. I thought that Brisbane cost themselves dearly by giving away time on free kicks, Bernie. The amount of times that they conceded goals deep into the quarter, just before within a minute or two of the siren going, cost them very, very dearly, as well as the first 2 goals of the game, which was the highest lead that that Collingwood had right throughout the game. That was the biggest margin that they ever had, 12 points right at the start of the game. And when Brisbane looked like they might have had the ascendancy, Collingwood always scored at least 1 goal in that last couple of minutes of each quarter. And I thought that was telling in the end. When you've got a margin of only 4 points, Brisbane, I think, were undisciplined at times in giving away territory and allowing Collingwood to get goals back when they should have really shut down the game in that last minute or two of each quarter.
I think.
Sorry, I'm moving about. I'm trying to get the best light. As you guys know, I just walked in the house, so I haven't really had any time to set up. So I apologise to all the viewers.
Okay.
I think I found the right.
We're all getting seasick just watching you there.
Mate, you're seasick. I've got a thumping headache. I haven't had breakfast or lunch.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Anyway,
we won't keep you long then.
that's right.
Just quickly, I agree with you, Vince. I think there was some undisciplined stuff that actually cost Brisbane in the end. The one that stood out to me was the one that Sidebottom got out on the wing, put him within range. Everyone thought he was out of his range, and of course he's gone in and belted it.
That was deep into the game. In fact, Collingwood at that stage had just taken the lead back from Brisbane after Charlie Cameron got that goal that put Brisbane in front. I think at that stage it was 80-78. Within a minute, Jordan De Goey gets one. And he kicked some vital goals at vital stages, De Goey, and it got them back in front, 84-80. And then I think it was Jared Berry who gave away that 50-metre penalty on the wing there to Sidebottom, and that was a very undisciplined act. It probably cost them the game in the end because, as we know, Danaher got one back for Brisbane and got them back to that 4-point margin, and there was still a minute and a half to go. And if there's ever a side this year that has mastered the art of icing the game when there's only a couple of minutes to go, it's been Collingwood this year. They have won every single close game for the entire year.
Interestingly enough, on the footy show today, Matthew Lloyd highlighted the fact that the players within that last quarter were actually looking to the bench to see some instruction, whether it be to score another goal or whether it be to ice it or whether it be to slow it down or take the momentum out of the game or whatever it was. They were doing it. Now, I thought, and I think it was Pendlebury that actually made mention of it in an interview after the game, that they said that, for 11 months now, it's been drummed into them, and every training session just about, they have this contesting work and they actually practice this. So this is no fluke. This is something that they've been able to master, and to their credit, they've been able to use quite effectively throughout the season, and obviously that was a part of the result on the end. Just a couple of quick comments before we get on to the Carlton stuff and possibly what's going to be looking like next season. But there was one bloke that I thought perhaps didn't get the kudos that he required for the game yesterday, and that was Big Mason Cox. I thought his game yesterday, from a ruckman's point of view and allowing Collingwood to be able to get onto the ball, was very good. Now, we all know that Oscar McInerney is probably one of the premier ruckmen in the league. I thought Mason Cox's work yesterday was well and truly worthy of his selection as the leading ruckman going into that final. So, and the other point that I'd like to make also is that if Bobby Hill hadn't have won the medal, Jack Cripps would have been very, very close second, I would imagine. His work, he inspired them at one stage there, Cripps, and his work, Crisp. His work was very, very good. But anyway, look,
my word.
Congratulations to Collingwood.
Well, let's have a look at the score for those who haven't seen it. So Collingwood 9-9-63 to
But that's half.
Lions
That was
9-10.
half time. That was at half time. Yeah.
That was half time.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, I didn't
No,
have
that's
time.
all right. No, in the end, Joe. In fact, Brisbane scored more goals than Collingwood, even though they lost the match. It's the only time this has happened since the 1968 Premiership, where Carlton kicked 7-14-56 to Essendon's 8-5-53. Carlton scored less goals but won the match. Brisbane kicked 13 goals, 8-86 to Collingwood's 12-18-90. And so Collingwood got over the line, even though they kicked one less goal, because they kicked 10 more behinds for the game. So if you like, I'll quickly go through the major goal scorers for the game. That's all right. So we've got Bobby Hill having kicked 4 goals, 2. In fact, he kicked all 4 of those goals in the first half. Also for Collingwood, Crisp got 2, DeGoey got 2, Nick Dacos 1, Myercheck 1, Pendlebury 1, and Sidebottom 1. And for Brisbane, we had Danaher with 3, Charlie Cameron with 3, Zach Bailey with 2, as well as Lincoln McCarthy, and also Hugh McCluggage. He also got 2 goals, and singles to, in fact, the only single goal kicker was Devon Robertson with 1. So, it's an even spread of goal kickers, but certainly Hill had the most impact on the game, certainly in the first half. But he continued playing well even in the second half. He could have had a shot there in that last quarter, but when no one expected it, he dished off a quick short pass to Pendlebury, who then went off and kicked the goal, his only goal in a grand final ever. So,
okay.
He played very well, and certainly a deserving winner of the Norm Smith medal, Bobby Hill, that's for sure.
Let's move on to the more important factors, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was Kiss like?
Well, I think generally speaking, most people felt it was a success. I don't know. What did you think, Brownie, as being an old rocker yourself back in the 70s when Kiss was at their peak? What did you think of seeing the old buggers out there in their 70s still putting the makeup on their faces and belting out tunes, probably getting paid an absolute fortune for going out there for half an hour and playing a couple of tunes?
They played 3 songs.
Yeah, well, you couldn't be any worse than bloody than Meatloaf, could you? Really? So realistically, no. I thought Kiss did a reasonable job. I thought the supporting kids did a good job too on the ground.
Yeah,
I thought the choreography was pretty good, given the fact that they belted it together. Congratulations.
I reckon it would have been better if it was a night grand final. I reckon all of the fireworks and lighting effects would have been far more effective. But anyway, it was still successful.
But I see Channel 7 have come in for some criticism because they didn't show Gene Simmons smashing the guitar.
Stanley.
Paul Stanley. But anyway.
Yeah, you know probably why they didn't want to show that? Why do you reckon they didn't show that?
I don't know.
What would you think, Brownie?
Oh, purely and simply because it's not kosher, and
it's promoting violence, is it?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Smashing guitars on the ground and all that sort of thing.
Who cares? Second point. What was Mark Seymour like at halftime? I heard it was like taking a sleeping tablet.
Yeah, it was. I don't think it was very appropriate music for halftime. I think it needed to be a bit more bubbly and a bit more boppy and keeping everyone in a good mood, and a faster pace and a more upbeat music would have been a better choice, I think.
The only song that is the Holy Grail is the one that gets one, but the other 2 that he sang, the young lady that they had doing the national anthem at the start of the game was supporting him in one of the songs that he did. And it almost like it was almost like it was embarrassing for Seymour to have a soprano trying to belt out this number, and you know, you could see that the tempo of the track was probably coming back a little bit, and it wasn't real flash. But I mean, obviously finishing with the Holy Grail was up until that point in time, I'd say the crowd was pretty restless, and we're looking at something more inspiring.
I've got a question to ask both of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need halftime entertainment? Really?
Probably not, but the reality is people expect something to happen on the field.
Why?
While the players are off at halftime.
Isn't the entertainment supposed to be the game? Like you go to a normal game.
But Joe, they have it everywhere. I mean, the Super Bowl in America's got halftime entertainment. The NRL Grand Final, which is happening right now as we speak, that's probably got halftime entertainment.
Do you know, if you didn't want to put that entertainment on, what they could do is perhaps instead of at the start of the game and recognise the retirees or the legends of the game, they could put them on at halftime and have them engage with the crowd rather than have the entertainment on. I think that's probably more of a fitting. And look, and in some respects, you could probably have an opportunity. You could have done a tribute to Ron Barassi or something like that. And I know that Mike Brady changed the words of his song to Up There Gazali for encompassing Ron Barassi in that, but. And probably rightly so. But if you're not going to have any entertainment like that, then obviously do something like that with the retirees and the legends.
So Vince was saying that it's expected all around the world, right? But if you go to any event around the world, and I've been to a fair few, they do not have pre-match entertainment like Kiss. They save it all for halftime. So why don't you put Kiss on at halftime and before the game, as Pete says, have, these players have retired or these players passed away during the year or highlights of the game. Remember, people, we are not the USA. The commercials during the Super Bowl, even though they have the halftime entertainment, it's for the people at the ground. It's not for the TV. On the TV, they show all those commercials. We could have a halftime sprint where we bring back the champions of yesteryear, like Peter Brown, Renee King, Mick Nolan, the battle of the heavyweights. Don't you think?
Would that be great?
The wheelchair race.
Wheelchair races.
Don't you think?
Or the walking frame.
The Zimmer frame 100.
Yeah.
But I don't know why you need apparently there was a game on before the game. I mean, I remember when I used to go to the grand final when it was the VFL. I used to go and you'd see the under-19s, the reserves, and then the seniors. I mean, I don't know. I think they've got a few things to do. I think the umpiring left a little bit to be desired in the last couple of weeks too, where they put away the whistle. I mean, if a free kick's there, you got to pay it. I watched Toby Green last week get his head pulled off. The umpire's right in front of him and he's going to play on. No wonder the guy gets angry. I mean, do you blame him?
I think something that you're referring to, Joe, and I don't know whether you saw the comments or not, but it was on the Footy Show, and this was that Razor Ray is probably one of the better judicial people
Judiciary,
in our game.
He's one of the better decision makers when it comes to what you're looking for in an umpire.
Thank you. But the only problem with Razor is he can't bounce the ball. So, but if they change that, well, I'm just saying that there's now a call to try and throw it up. And I don't know whether you guys have noticed or not, but when they're actually throwing the ball, they don't actually throw it straight up. They actually throw it out on an angle. And I'm not sure whether that might.
They throw it away from themselves a little bit, don't they? So they do throw it up, predominantly up, but away from them. So that it's actually.
They'll get crunched.
By the time it comes down again, it's quite a bit further away from the umpire.
And then that brings something else into play too, because a true ruckman, is able to read the bounce off the ground and actually be able to time his jump. Someone like a Mason Cox or even McInerney or these guys that are real beanpoles. When throwing the ball up, there's more an advantage to that type of ruckman than there is to the actual ball being bounced for the game. But anyway, that's
Can I just by the way, can I just ask you, Brownie, in terms of the coaches on the day? Now we all know that Craig McRae had a huge day, which started with the birth of his child. His wife went into labour early that morning, and in fact, she got I think it was her sister to take her in, so that she could let him sleep a bit longer before the grand final, which was very considerate of her. But what a way to start a grand final day, where your wife's giving birth to a child, and then your team gets up by less than a kick in the grand final. He must be feeling like he's on cloud nine at the moment. But in terms of the coaches on the day, how did you rate their performances in terms of matchups and moves during the game and the way they handled things in such a tight contest?
I thought that probably strategically, I think that McRae was probably using more of his ability to be able to switch things around. For example, when Murphy went down and off, he had to make some adjustments where that's concerned in the back line. So, and I thought that move of Hoskin Elliott when actually back and actually played in the back line, I thought that was quite telling. And I don't think Brisbane were quick enough to react to that. Rayner. They
could have exploited that a little bit better, couldn't they?
Yeah, well, Rayner was beaten badly, and I would have thought that they might have changed him around a little bit. Coleman, I thought he was nearly close to
best on the ground by half time.
Second best on the ground.
Second best, yeah.
Yeah. But the only thing that let Coleman down was some of his disposal. It wasn't as pinpoint as it was against Carlton.
True.
He destroyed us. The other bloke that I would like to make mention, and they said this interestingly enough on the footy show today, perhaps they're a little bit premature with giving the goal of the year because Zach Bailey's goal that
his second goal was magic. Absolute magic goal.
That was
on the boundary line, had to dodge and weave a couple of players, then swing around on his right foot and hooked it around. It was a magic goal.
So that was. I was going to bring that point up because I heard this on the radio yesterday. We have a bye before the finals, okay? Mm-hmm. Why don't they? And then like grand final week is way too much. You got you got Brownlow, and then you got all Australian presentations and all that. Why don't we have the bye before the grand final, like after the preliminary final, and in that week you can get rid of all those things. And if anyone has a concussion in the preliminary final, it gives them the 2 weeks to get ready for a grand final.
Well, that's what they did in 2021 when the final series was held in Perth.
Yeah,
they actually had a week off between the preliminary finals and the grand final. Now that was the only year they did it in, but I thought it worked okay.
But I don't know why you have to have the Brownlow the Monday night and then the All Australian the Wednesday. Let the players concentrate. I'm sure Lachie Neale doesn't need the distraction on Monday night of winning a Brownlow medal and then getting, 50 million questions when he wants to probably get some sleep or concentrate on a game that's coming up. It's just ridiculous. Anyway,
Look, I don't have any objection to having a week off before the grand final. No, not at all. That would give possibly people that are injured or, as you say, concussion protocols and stuff like that to get right for the game. You were making mention of some Americanisms which are coming into the game. Prior to this, we were calling it the big dance. Bullshit. It's the grand final, for Christ's sake. That sort of thing, that is unnecessary. That's not a part of our vocabulary here in
defense, offense.
Yeah.
Well, when did we start talking about minor premierships? I don't remember that.
I think there's. That's
an NRL. That's an NRLism, minor premierships. I mean, who cares? What's the point of? I don't want to finish
because you finished on top of the ladder at the end of the home and away season.
A big deal. What happens if you get knocked out like Melbourne in 2 weeks?
Go out in straight shirts.
You reckon they're going to walk around going, "Oh, but we're the minor premiers"? But I will say one thing: in line with the English cricketers of the last Ashes, I'm going to declare the Carlton Football Club the moral victors of the premiership because we beat both Brisbane and Collingwood. So, Carlton Football Club, you are the moral premiers of 2023. You don't agree?
We also lost to Brisbane and Collingwood as well.
that was when we were shit. In the second half of the season, when we're on it, we're the moral premiers. I'm just taking a leaf out of the English cricket.
Originally, well, I think we've diverted away from my original question about 3 times. I asked about the coaching moves and all that sort of thing. Chris Fagan, I didn't really see him making many moves during the game. I came away from that game thinking, in a lot of ways, Brisbane were the better team and potentially had more firepower and more scoring power. But I don't know, they just never looked like they were going to get there, did they? And they just weren't daring enough, and they weren't showing the sort of form that they showed the week before against Carlton.
I think against Carlton they might have played their final, to be honest with you. I mean, they were controlling the game, they were controlling the corridor, they were controlling the scoreboard, and Carlton didn't have an answer for them.
I reckon where they lost the game, Brownie, was in that second quarter with I think it might have been about 6 or 7 minutes to go. They got 13 points in front of Collingwood. They were 50-37. And within the next 6 or 7 minutes, Collingwood kicked, I think, 3 goals, or it might have been 4 goals to 1. And they went in 63-57 at half-time in front. And I thought, that's going to be costly. That is really going to cost them, because they really should have put their foot to the floor there when they got 13 points in front. And top teams would seek to take full advantage of that advantage at the time of 13 points and at least try and build on it, or at least hold that lead by half time. But Collingwood, you've got to give it to them. They just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming, and they found ways to manufacture goals. And the one player I reckon that was the most important player on the ground in that last quarter was probably the oldest player on the ground, Scott Pendlebury. Oh. How brilliant was his last quarter? He was just an architect for that victory in the end. It was like an on-field coach.
Yeah, well, they were saying that there were 2 coaches, one on the bench and one out on the ground, and Pendlebury was the one that was the coaching from the within, so to speak, or on the ground, and obviously McRae on the bench. So, look, as I said before, it could have gone either way. It didn't. Obviously, now the town of Melbourne will be painted black and white for some days and weeks probably to come.
I'm disgusted.
Now, all this does now is that should make sides like Carlton, Essendon, St Kilda, Geelong,
Melbourne and Bulldogs.
Melbourne, it should make them 10 times more hungry now to have a decent pre-season and come back better than how they finished at the end of the year. Because when it's all said and done, the 2 top sides ended up in the last day of September for the last game. It was a fitting result. A fitting game for a grand final. Let's all move on and let's have a look to see what we're going to do next year.
All right. Let's move on. So on that note, forget about Collingwood and Brisbane. But before I do go, this is a great username, Rat Poison Daughter of a Suicide. I don't know where you get it from, but I don't know. Do we call you Rat Poison for short or Suicide? I'm not sure. Please
we'll just call him the Rat.
Rat. Okay. So we're going to have a quick review of the year. So in our Blue Sunday best and fairest, and this was not reflected in the Brownlow, by the way. I don't know what bloody game the umpires see, but to say that Patrick Cripps was the best and fairest player for the Carlton for this year is a bit of a joke. But this is where it really is. Charlie Curnow, 1 point win over Adam Chera and Sam Walsh third. So I think Charlie was lucky in that. Absolutely. In some of the games he kicked bags of goals. So like he kicked 2 bags of 9 or 10 against West Coast. So we gave him full points there. My view, I'm going to ask each of you, I thought our most consistent player this year was Adam Cerra, and I would have gone Sam Walsh, but Sam Walsh missed a few games with injury. So, and I thought Sam Doherty played well. So I don't know about you guys. Vince?
We should. Okay, well, I think we should point out, first of all, that this is just for the 24 home and away rounds.
Exactly.
We had a separate leaderboard for just the finals, so we'll go through that shortly.
That's coming next.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Joe, that Adam Cerra, certainly in the earlier part of the season when we were really struggling to put wins together. In fact, we went through a very, very bad patch there where we lost 8 games out of 9. He was still performing at a very high level even during those games. And, I think he only got – did he only get the 2 Brownlow votes for the entire season? I thought that was a bit rough on him. Even Walsh didn't get many Brownlow votes, but Cripps was clearly one of the umpires' favourites who got, what did he get, 22 Brownlow votes?
22
Unbelievable.
votes.
Yeah, I think Cerra, and I'd have to put in Newman. I thought Nick Newman had a very, very consistent season, and I'd be very, very surprised if Nick Newman didn't finish in the top 3, in fact, in the best and fairest, not just the top 5. I think top 5 should be a moral, but I think he's got a very good chance of finishing in the top 3 the way he played the game throughout the bulk of the year.
It'll be interesting to see. Pete, your views?
I agree with Vince and yourself there, Joe. I think that Cerra was our most consistent player throughout the year, and the games that he was playing, don't forget, he missed games going into the final series as well. He missed 3 or 4. I'm not sure now. It might have been 3.
He missed 3 or 4 with a hamstring injury. Yeah,
that's
3 or 4 rounds. Yeah,
that's right. So Curnow can consider himself pretty lucky where that's concerned that the Cerra didn't end up on top of the thing. The one that obviously I would like to pay tribute to is Walsh. He came in late, and his ability to be able to score well in terms of votes was very good. Newman's year was pretty consistent. There is one thing I would like to see get out of Newman's game, and that is if he's beaten badly, he doesn't drop the lip. That's what he needs to get out of his game. Doherty, I thought, was consistent. Wasn't outstanding, but consistent. Patrick Cripps, it was only in his last probably half a dozen games that he started to accumulate. Akers was a late charge. Hewitt really didn't figure all that much, and Harry only picked up some towards the end of the year. So if it was my way around and Cerra had played that extra game, I think you would find that Cerra would probably be on top of Curnow, on top of the table.
Now this was only for the home and away, okay? So we did one for the final series.
Yep.
And Sam Walsh killed it.
Yep.
You got 21 out of a possible 27 votes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mac, if he got 3 votes in each of the 3 finals that we played in, from each one of the 3 of us, he would have got top billing of 27. So to get 21 out of the 27 votes is huge.
And the other thing that was interesting there too, guys, is that not only did he play well himself, but he did all the team-orientated things. For example, the tackles, the smothers, the 1%ers. He was also I call him the spiritual leader out there on the ground. And again, I will pay tribute to Wiedering. You made the comment some weeks ago, the barometer, we'll call him.
Yep.
But from a leadership point of view, I could not fault Sam Walsh's performance in the final series. And I would like to see the captaincy go to him over the summer break. Now, whether they make some tough decisions and whether they don't, I don't know. But that's my take on it and my opinion. So,
we'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But first, it's time for...
Beautiful kick from Brown. That's a magnificent kick. Look at that. He was inside the centre square when he kicked that for a goal.
Now, I know what you're all thinking. We didn't play. How can Pete give brownie points? Well, this is Pete's brownie points for the season. So I guess, Pete, is it the most improved or the most consistent, or what have you judged this on?
The quiet achiever of the year award, I reckon, is probably what you'd call it.
I'll call it the momentum of the year, because he built some really good momentum towards the end of the season. Started off poorly and didn't feature a lot. In fact, found himself in the twos and was able to fight his way back. But not only that, start to stamp his authority and get an understanding of what his role within the side is.
Okay, and the winner is...
Go on, Brownie.
Yeah,
you got a symbol.
Yeah, it's the big fella, Tom De Koning.
Yes.
Mine.
There was even speculation about whether he was going to stay at Carlton or not, and in the end, he committed to the club for another 2 years until he gets unlimited free agency.
And interestingly enough, when he did commit, his performances started to improve out of sight. Not only was he featuring and having an influence around the ground with his ruck play, but he was also being able to do his second and third efforts, as well as be able to take marks. When you rang me today and asked me to get your name up for that, the Brownie points for the year, that was for mine. It was a very simple choice.
Okay.
He was, I think, instrumental a couple of times in kick-starting us in games. He was able to contribute within the team structure as well as individually. So it was. I thought it was a great performance from the big fella, and I'll look to better and bigger things from him next season.
Okay, so, good choice, Tom De Koning.
So since it's our last show and we've probably exhausted everything about the grand final, I'm going to give each of you 5 minutes. I want you to tell me about how you think Carlton's season went. And with the trade coming up, so we've got the free agency trade and the national draft, what do you think we are missing? So I'll start with you, Peter.
Okay. Firstly, we'll make some comments in and around our season. Obviously, our season was very disappointing early. I mean, that was evident with what was happening and all the publicity in and around that with supporters and stuff like that. We felt probably as supporters and obviously a part of the Carlton Football Club, we didn't feel like we were part of the family, as Collingwood is making their people feel like. So disappointing early in the season. Our season turned around because we started to break the shackles a bit. We were we were coaching early in the season safely. We were playing safely. We weren't prepared to take the game on. We weren't prepared to try some things. I felt during our commentary during the year that I thought Voss could have made some more strategic moves, more so to find out what our players are capable of doing. And there was many a time I mentioned the fact that Charlie could go behind the ball or, crits to the forward line or try something different rather than just have a plan A and no plan B. Plan A works fine when we're running and gunning and being able to control the game. When we don't do that, plan B is not so good. And we find ourselves still on occasions panicking in fairly tight situations. In terms of our second half of our season, where we had the turnaround, it was really individuals that actually stood up under some duress. We were looking for players to kickstart us. We were looking for players to inspire us. And when that didn't happen, we found ourselves struggling to be able to get on the scoreboard and be able to have an influence. Yes, we won those 10 or 11 or 12 games on the trot, which is great for the club and everything like that. I made mention to Vince after the season proper had finished that and when the finals series was on, that I thought that guys that I expected to stand up in fairly close and tough conditions. One is Curnow and Cripps and Motlop and not so much Hollands. I'll forgive him because he's young and he needs a decent pre-season. But some of our backmen towards the end of the season, I think, were found wanting. So what I'm expecting over the summer break, not only our coaching staff have to sit down and consider where we're going with this side, but they also have to make some tough decisions as to what they need for their deficiencies. Now, they could have a look at all 3 games in the final series, sit there and have a look at them. Even though we won 2 of them and lost the vital one, there is a deficiency there. So you need to be able to plug that, and you've got to be able to improve in that deficiency. Now, whether that means that they've got to make some changes at coaching level or whether it's personnel level, that's something that they've got to figure out. But for mine, we still struggle to be able to score freely when our big forwards are not firing. And there was comments going into the final series where that at times we looked lost in our forward line when we had the 2 talls there. We looked like that, there was comments like, Curnow just sits back and lets Harry do it now. Or, Harry is not working hard enough because Curnow's bloody on, or whatever. I would like to see some more hunger between those 2. The other thing that I'd like to make mention of is the fact that whilst Wiedering did take control of the back line, there was a couple of times there where McGovern was in the side, and it looked like that guys like Kemp and Newman and these guys that had been featuring throughout the back half of the season when we were playing well, that they started to fall off a little bit with their consistency and also their ability to be able to make opportunities further down. I think we still have a little deficiency in the midfield. I think Cripps is too slow in there now. I think they need to re-roll his input. Now, whether that be take the captaincy off him and then give it to somebody else like Walshy or someone like that, I'm not sure what that will look like at this stage. And I'm sure that if we could plug those deficiencies, have a decent pre-season, build up a few of the kids like Hollands and these guys that need to be built up and strengthened, and have an opportunity to be able to understand what is required to actually win finals. If we go into next season and we actually fall off the pace, then all of that work that we've done this season means nothing, right? Everyone was going into the final series saying that we didn't have any experience in this and we didn't have any experience in that. Well, that's no longer an excuse. We've had some experience in that now, and we also know what's required to win those close games. So this is a political paid announcement, and I'm quite happy to step aside and let someone else have a go.
That's okay. Vince?
Written and authorised by P. Brown in Melbourne, Australia.
Vince won't be brief. You know that. Come on, Vince.
Oh, thanks very much. Well, we've given Brownie uninterrupted reign there over the airwaves. I won't take too long. He knows what he's
talking about. You and I don't.
Yeah, I just think, okay, fine. Do you want my opinion or not?
No.
Oh, dear.
I just want you to tell us your undying love of Dean Andrews. No. Come on, Vince.
I was in a good mood before you mentioned that name.
Yeah.
He's gone. Talk about our year. Come on.
Okay, look, I think clearly we got off to a pretty good start. I think we had 3.5 wins because we drew the first game against Richmond out of our first 4, and everything was looking rosy at that stage. And then all of a sudden we started that big slump, starting with that big loss to Adelaide in Gather Round over there in Adelaide. And apart from beating West Coast in Perth, which everyone else was doing, we literally lost to everyone just before the bye. We turned it around with one game to go before the bye. And I dare say if we had lost that game against Gold Coast, I think the knives were getting sharpened over there in the boardroom at Princes Park because, it's a case of how much can you take. But thankfully, we did turn it around and turn it around in a massive way, in a way I've never seen a team do after being in such a slump. We were 15th on the ladder after 15 rounds. And in the end, we turned things around so well that we ended up finishing 5th on the ladder by the end of the season. And that is a testament to the players. And it's also a glowing endorsement of Michael Voss as our coach. I'm glad they stuck with him and didn't take out the knives too early. And I think that's just proven now that this team is capable. It is ready. It has got a profile, a list profile that should be playing finals. So for the first time in a decade, we finally made the finals, and I think we acquitted ourselves extremely well. I think most of us would have been more than happy to have won at least one final, but to win two and then to compete so well in the third one as well, which was always going to be the hardest mountain to climb in Brisbane. I think Carlton supporters have genuinely walked away from this season feeling pretty good about themselves, feeling pretty proud of the players, and pretty proud to be a Carlton supporter again, which hasn't been the case for a long, long time. So without getting into details about each one of the players and which positions on the ground we need to get better at and all that sort of thing, I think we've got a very solid base and a very solid foundation now to build on. As Brownie says, we've now played in a final series, so the lack of experience won't be an excuse next time around. We need to build on this. And I have no doubt that the aim next year will be to finish in the top 4 so that we do get a double chance and to hopefully go one better and play off in the grand final next year. But whether that happens or not remains to be seen, but that certainly should be the aspiration. Whether we end up achieving it or not will be up to the players and up to the coaching staff. But I think even our recruiting staff and our list management staff can be pretty proud of what they've done this year. To bring in players like Blake Acres to fill that wing position was vitally important, and to also recruit Ollie Hollands on the other wing. They were clearly weaknesses of ours in the team at the end of last year. I remember Joe bitterly complaining about Jack Nunes and players like that just weren't doing the job on the wing. Now we've got players like Acres and Hollands and Cottrell and Sam Walsh and Doherty that can all play on the wing if we need them to. So I think we've addressed a lot of our deficiencies. The ruck still worries me a little, but it's good to hear that, you've given Tom De Koning the big thumbs up there, Brownie. You think he can develop into an even better ruckman? Hopefully that's the case and he can take over from Pitnet. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see him blossom into a number one ruckman rather than just a backup ruckman. The only area that I think we really need to improve in is in the area of speed. I just don't think that we're a quick enough team across the ground. Our midfield is strong. It's great in the contest and in the clearances and all that, but we just don't have speedy players. I'd like to see them address that in the trade period and in the draft. But other than that, I think we've got a lot of things to look forward to, and hopefully next year we don't get slammed too hard in the fixture for finishing up in the top 5. Up till now, we've had it pretty easy with cushy draws, but it'll be harder. Everyone else gets better as well, so we're going to have to improve. But that would be my take on it, Joe. I hope I haven't gone on too long for you there.
No, that's right. Just remember, at the start of the season, there are 18 teams that all want to finish in the 8, all right? So it's not like, a team, maybe North Melbourne, I don't know. But even then, they still want to finish in the 8.
Every single one of the 18 teams, their aspiration, not an expectation necessarily, but their aspiration should all be to make the finals. All of them.
There you go. That's what they're there.
Yeah.
I think, look, I don't go to the games, okay? So I really only get to watch it on TV and then the replay.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've got problems, not problems. I think we've got issues that some are small, some are big. I still think we need another key defender. Right, Kemp was good, but towards the end of the year, I don't know if it was because he was young or, he dropped off. McGovern's not the answer. He is a rebound defender, but he can't take a tall forward. And I can see Brownie going like that. I mean, he's good, but he's not a key defender. I think our centre line's okay. I'll look at the wings. I'll worry about the centre in a minute. I think Akers and Holland's okay. Holland's, I think, with another couple of pre-seasons, even if he just one more, he'll be a better player. I still think we've got some issues in our forward line. I don't think the issue is the personnel. I think the issue is the way that we're coached and the way that we bring the ball in. I still think Harry and Charlie tend to go for the same ball. I still think that the small forwards are not smart enough to stay at the feet of either Harry or Charlie. Like if I'm a small forward, I'm short. If I was playing in that team, I would not move from their feet, right? Because I know 9 out of 10 times they're going to have 2 players on them and they're going to punch, right? They're not going to try and outmark them. The only time they try and outmark them is when we kick it to them and we kick it straight to – we just, as Lou says, we just bomb it in and hope for either Charlie or Harry. And I think that was Charlie's big problem in the finals. Everyone's going, oh, Charlie had a poor final series. We didn't actually deliver that ball that well to him, if you have a look. He always had 2 or 3 on him, so we should have been a bit smarter. And if there's 2 on someone, then someone's loose. I mean, it's just logical, right? So I don't know where these loose people were. So I think we've got a bit of work to do. I think Zach Williams may be pretty good. Look, as much as I like Sard, he's very loose. He's good at getting the ball and running and carrying and then Wolf, but he's a very loose player. And I agree with both of you. We need speed. Forget. I'll wear with Pito and TDK in the ruck because I'm hoping TDK gets into a better ruckman. But I saw one day we had in the centre we had Cripps, Kennedy, and Walsh. Where's the speed? I mean. Yeah, they're all extractors, and that's great. But at the end of the day, we do need some speed. I don't know if you would consider Adam Chera as quick. I don't know. And
no, I wouldn't have thought so.
And, we're not going to go out and hunt a Lockie Neal or something like that. I don't think our draft hand is that well. There's talk of getting Elijah Hollands. I don't know if he's a good player or not. I've got to rely on people to tell me whether he's a good player. I don't watch enough. He plays at the Gold Coast. Is that right?
Yeah, well, that's Ollie Hollands' brother. Yep.
Yeah, but is he a good player, Vince?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's struggling to get a game with the Gold Coast seniors by the sounds of it. But there's talk that we're interested in getting him and that he's interested in coming over. So it remains to be seen. I know one thing. We've got some father-sons that are looking pretty promising in the next 2 or 3 years. You've got Andrew Walker's young son, Cody, and you've got Scott Campriali's twin sons that are both doing extremely well. So a little bit like Collingwood with Dacosses and with Moores. Who knows? We might build the future on some father-sons as well.
I don't know, but look, if you'd have told me at the start of the year we would have played in a preliminary final, I would have said, yeah, I'll take that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
I would point blank say, yeah, put it down now. Because I thought that we'd probably finish 5th to 8th at the end.
Well, we did. We finished 5th.
No, at the end of the final series.
Oh, you mean, in other words, you didn't expect to get past the second week?
No. I would have thought a bonus would have been winning the first week. Winning the second week was extra bonus. So are we happy? Yeah. I mean, we all had a bigger expectation because we all thought we were capable of beating the Brisbanes and the Collingwoods. And, even if we'd have made the grand final, I thought we were too banged up. I don't know whether playing I've got to say Cripps, not Crisp. I don't know whether playing Cripps with broken ribs is the answer, right?
No.
I know we needed him, but Peter will tell you it's a bloody hard game, right? And to go in there with, any sort of injury, even if it's a slight niggle, it makes it twice as hard. And the
I have no
players
doubt,
know
and I have no doubt that Blake Acres is.
and Doherty.
What
And Doherty.
was it? The collarbone would have been absolutely
Yeah.
banged up in that third final. Yeah.
So,
But look,
so
they
things
were
look
brave.
good.
They didn't lose by a lot in that preliminary final. They
No.
only lost by 16 points in the end, and I think there's a solid foundation to build on there.
Yeah, I think coaching is probably still a little bit not quite there. I don't know if
Do you know one thing?
Ross...
Can I ask you a question, Brownie? One of the things, I don't know if you noticed this throughout the year, but the one thing I don't see from Carlton very often is free-flowing play that results in a running goal by players that are streaming forward and hand passing to each other, etc. And someone gets on the end of it 40 or 50 metres out and kicks a running goal. That sort of fast-paced, exciting-looking goal just doesn't happen very often. We tend to be more workmanlike with our goals.
But we don't have anyone with pace to run, Vince. That's the problem.
Well, that's probably the issue. But, yeah, I mean, we've seen some exciting goals, yes, but maybe some of the small forwards at times, or Charlie takes a big mark and then goes back and slots it through on a set shot. But I don't know that we're getting too many easier, can I put it in inverted commas, easier goals by that sort of running, flowing play. I don't think we see that enough.
Well, I think the first one that Cottrell kicked against Brisbane, where the ball came out the back and he was able to run onto it, I think that was probably an example of what you were talking about, Vince. I think if you cast your mind back to a couple of the games where we had our tools up in and around between, say, half forward to wing, able to mark, turn, wheel, go, and allow the run back. I think that's the sort of thing. But the problem with that is that you've got to have someone like a Charlie Cameron or someone like that can actually use the smarts to run back and get into it. From that point of view. So, but the thing that probably is fairly evident to me is that our forward line deficiency has to be improved in terms of over the summer break, and their systems of being able to adjust and being able to keep the forward line open. I think that's important. I think the game that, and I'll just harp back to Bobby Hill. I think most of his goals were opportunistic goals, where he was able to use his smarts and outrun and outgun. So I think that Carlton needs that opportunity to be able to create that using the forwards that we've got to be able to produce. Now, and it was proven in our final series, if Charlie's not on, then we've got no other avenue to go. So this is the deficiency of which we've got to improve on.
About the only player I think that I can recall who started to do a little bit of what I'm talking about, and he didn't do it all the time, but he started to show good signs when he came back from injury, was Jack Martin. At times he was that clever player that could turn on his right and then swing back on his left, a little bit like Bobby Hill did yesterday in the grand final. I don't know if you remember that goal to the punt road end where he grabbed the ball and just outwitted, I think it was Starcevic at the time, or it might have been Leicester. And he went from his right, looked like he was going to kick it on the right, and then all of a sudden back onto his left and snapped it around his body. Great goal, great, lovely, exciting goal. They're the sorts of goals I'm talking about as well. And I think Jack Martin showed good signs that he could do that. But
he needs to be fitter next year. He needs to be much fitter next year.
Right? There's no doubt that fitness is going to play a big part. Whether they can keep healthy and on the park, who knows? I don't know where Zach Williams is going to come back into the side and what sort of opportunity he's going to be able to create. But I agree with you, Vince. I think that someone like a Jack Martin, if he's being used correctly, and there is the odd occasion. I don't think you'll see that Bobby Hill he's not flying for marks as much. Maybe when it gets out the back, but he's not relied upon to be that other attack forward. It's more like Billy Elliott, obviously Myercheck, and these that have got to create that, and then Bobby Hill's the opportunist. And I just don't think that Motlop's quick enough, and he has to build his speed up over the break. I know he's young, but he has to build it up.
I think the best sides, if you look at the 223s yesterday, Bobby Hill for Collingwood and Charlie Cameron for Brisbane, they are the sort of exciting, lightning quick, quick-witted players that are just so exciting to watch and can create a lot of momentum when they get it together, don't they? I mean, we saw both Bobby Hill and Charlie Cameron yesterday. One kicked 4 goals, the other one kicked 3 goals, and they were the ones who lit the fuse for their teams when they started to play well.
No doubt.
All right.
So, based on that, we're all positive of 2024. We think we're going to be okay.
I think so.
I think we've got a decent foundation to springboard. Now it's up to the club to make either tough decisions or the right decisions to be able to bolster and be able to plug our inefficiencies. And once we do that, I think we can then build on something that we need to build on.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've seen some list management decisions made in the last week or so, haven't we, Joe? We've seen the exit of Lockie Plowman, who decided to hang up the boots, number 20, after 145 games. He was a very serviceable defender for us through a lot of tough years. Obviously, got a bit slow there towards the last year or two and struggled to get a game in the end. But yes, he was a bit of a whipping boy in the end for some of our supporters. But he served us well. So he's gone, and I think there's been some other delistings from memory, Joe.
Philp and Honey.
Sam Philp barely played more than a handful of games in about 4 years on the list, constantly injured. Josh Honey, I think, again, probably proved that he's not really up to AFL standard. Can't play consistently well. He occasionally played the odd good game, but couldn't put 2 or 3 really good games together, and in the end lost his spot in the team. They gave him a fair run this year. He played a few senior games, I think. And the other one was... There was another one there somewhere. Yeah, I said Honey.
Phil?
Yeah, I said Honey.
And O'Brien.
Oh, Lockie O'Brien was the other one. Now, that's interesting because Lockie O'Brien technically had a contract for next year.
Yeah, he does.
Now they gave him a 2-year. They gave him a 2-year extension last year, which was actually something that raised the eyebrows of a lot of people. Now they've decided that they're better off to pay him out and free up his spot on the list. They've obviously lost confidence in him and his ability, so he'll be going no doubt into the draft and seeing if he can get a gig somewhere else.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what they do with Paddy Dow. Seeing Paddy Dow really shone towards the second half of the year and finally got an opportunity or two, mainly due to injury, but certainly acquitted himself quite well when he did get the chance. And I thought he was a bit stiff not to get a game in the last couple of finals.
Agreed.
Yeah. But again, it's a matter of whether he wants to stick with us and whether we want to stick with him. But it wouldn't surprise me to see him go to greener pastures to get a more regular senior gig.
Well, apparently Zach Fisher's all signed, sealed and delivered at North, apparently.
Well, that was the other one I was going to mention. I'm not sure where Zach Fisher's at because he also missed out on getting an opportunity in the finals despite playing a few games towards the end of the home and away season. So they'll probably try and trade him somewhere, I would think.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Before we go, I'm going to ask you one thing. Should we be putting anyone up on the trade table for currency?
Do you still think you should be putting Harry Mackay up there, Brownie, or what?
Who are you putting up, Pete? Vince?
I'd actually throw Mackay up.
You would?
Absolutely, I'd still throw him up. I just don't think that we're a better side without him in the forward line, and I think that was proven in the games that we won. That just made everyone else get a bit more hungry.
Hang on, Brownie, you gave him a vote in the preliminary final.
Absolutely, I did. He was the only
I
forward
think
we
you
actually
gave.
had.
I think you gave Walsh 3, Wiedering 2, and Harry Mackay 1 in the last final that we played. But you'd put him up for trade, would you?
Absolutely. While he's still got currency. And I actually said that some time ago when Gibbs and
Murphy,
Cruiser and these guys, even Murphy, when they was around and they had currency, I would have got rid of him some time ago.
So because his brother's nominated Essendon, Ben Mackay from North Melbourne has nominated Essendon as his club of choice, do you think that you'd go straight to Essendon and say, do you want to make it double trouble?
No.
I mean, don't forget, Harry has only just completed his most recent contract, and now he's about to start his new 7-year deal at Carlton.
Yeah,
which I think averages around 800,000 or 900,000 a year for the next 7 years till the end of 2030.
Yeah, I can't get my head around that one, boys. I find that ludicrous. No player's worth that for a 7 or 8 year deal. My comments in and around that throughout the season. I think there should be a 2-year deal on the table with obviously extensions. And then it gets back to how you perform in that 2 years rather than given an open-ended, 7 or 8 year deal. Carlton's been notorious for this in the past, and a lot of it's come back to bite us fair square on the bum. So I just don't think that it's worth it. I don't think any player's worth it, actually, to be honest. I think it can change in a heartbeat. It's been proven with injuries, etc., etc. But so Harry Mackay is one that I'd put up. As I said before, my comments in and around Cripps haven't changed. I think I'd relieve him of the captaincy and give it to Walsh and get a fresh understanding of what's going on. I saw a couple of comments up earlier for a few of our viewers. I think that our coaching staff still have to have some expertise in and around our mids and stuff like that. I just don't think we've got credibility in there yet properly, and I would like to see that happen. But whilst Harry's now what, 24? Is he 24?
No, he's 25.
25. Okay.
They gave him a 7-year deal. He won't play till 32.
Yeah, but the other thing is that
that's right, 2030. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is that 25, if you don't know how to kick by the time you're 25, then you'll never know how to kick. So that still becomes an issue for me. And he's very much a confidence player, and when his confidence is down, he's terrible. And like you said with McGovern, Joe, I agree with you.
Yeah.
McGovern as the answer in the back line is not it. So I'd be looking to put McGovern up. I'd be looking to put Mackay up. I'd be even though that McGovern's signed an extension probably at less money than what he was on. I'd still look to try and get some pennies for him and get some currency. So, but yeah,
would you let Mackay go if it meant that Carlton had to chip in? I don't know, say a couple of 250,000 a year out of his contract every year, like Collingwood's doing with Brodie Grundy right at the moment?
Yeah, what's going to happen with that? Because he looks like he's going to go to Sydney. So he's gone from Collingwood to Melbourne and then Melbourne to probably Sydney. So does that mean that it's all bets are off once he goes?
No. Collingwood still have to contribute that amount of money.
Let's say, for example, Sydney takes over Melbourne's part of the contract.
Yeah, that's what they're
doing. Then Sydney just pays him what Melbourne were paying him this year. But Collingwood still have to pay that original portion, extra whatever money. It might be, 250 or 300,000.
Put it this way, I think Harry would be a good fit in Sydney.
I was just going to say that. Now that Buddy Franklin's retired, Sydney notoriously goes for big-name full forwards. I mean, we've seen, Warwick Kappa, Barry Hall, Tony Lockett, Buddy Franklin, you name it. They love their big name, big profile full forwards. And if Harry can take contested marks and kick straight for a change, who knows? Sydney might turn him around, but that might be a good target. I personally don't think, Brownie, as much as we can sit here and say what we would do, I doubt very, very much that they will relieve Patrick Cripps of the captaincy. I doubt very much that they'll trade Harry Mackay. It'll be too much egg on their face, I think. Now that they've signed up McGovern, they'll keep him. Now that they've signed up Silvani, they'll keep him. I doubt very much that any of these players that have been signed up will be traded. The only ones that may be traded are guys like Zach Fisher with a year to go on his contract.
And Dow.
And Paddy Dow doesn't have a contract.
Kennedy?
Maybe a Matthew Kennedy if he wants to go elsewhere. Lockie Fogarty was even given an extension contract towards the end of the year.
What about Cunningham?
Well, Cunningham's another one that struggled to get into the team towards the end of the final series. You know, you've got to ask questions about his long-term viability, both with injury and with form.
I'd get rid of Zach Williams too. Oh, someone's just put it up.
Well, Zach Williams is another one who's on huge money, $850, $900 a year for a halfback flanker. We haven't got a lot of room in our salary cap because of some of these decisions.
Yeah, anyway.
But it will be interesting to see. It will be interesting to see who we trade in and who we trade out during the next couple of weeks. That basically starts tomorrow, the trade period.
Now I
don't. Just one other quick thing. I don't know whether you noticed against the game against Brisbane. There was Bossy was on the boundary line, and Hansen. I don't know whether you picked up on this or not, Vince, but Hansen was in his ear about something. And Voss just dismissed it, and I thought, that's interesting. That's interesting. I don't know whether you picked up on it.
I did notice a bit of an exchange between the two of them. Yep.
But it was almost like, you know, Voss was engaged and invested in the game, and Hansen was either suggesting or something, but it sort of fell on deaf ears. Did that make sense to you? Did that make sense to you?
Yes, from a body language point of view, it didn't look great, but we don't know what the discussion was about. So we're probably speculating a little without knowing what the discussion was about or, you know, what in fact was said between the two. But, yeah, from a body language point of view, it didn't look all that promising, to be honest.
Well, look, I'm just throwing it out there purely and simply because, you know, Joe, you asked the question, what do we have to do? Is that something that can be considered? I don't know.
But it's almost like that exchange. Do you remember on the boundary line there at the MCG where Cripps and Voss were having a discussion and, you know, people were speculating about whether the two of them were fighting and carrying on. But in the end, it was clearly not the case. So, look, I don't think that there's a problem if you've got exchanges between people and they're not always going to agree with each other. You know, maybe Hansen did suggest something to Voss and Voss said, no, not going to do that. Who knows?
We don't know.
As an assistant coach, the senior coach is not always going to take every suggestion or every bit of advice you might throw at him. So, but look, it'll be interesting also to see in the off-season whether there are any changes to the coaching team because they've essentially kept the same coaches for the last 2 years. So, you know, are they all performing at a level that the club's happy with? Whether it's Aaron Hamill coaching our defence or Ashley Hansen in the forward line or Clark, that's right, in the middle, who's coaching our midfielders. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, it's like everything else, it's subjective.
We did say this is our last show. Maybe we may do one after all the drafts are finished, you know, like the free agency and the national draft. We might come on and just talk about half an hour about what moves we did. So I'll talk to Vince and Peter off air. Peter, we normally say goodbye to you now, but I think since it's the last show, we've only got a little bit to go. You may as well stick with us because you're going to see what a lousy punter our fellow commentator is. So it is now time for. Now, in true Vince fashion, he normally blames, I didn't see all the fields and I didn't do this. Vince has put on this bet last week.
Yeah, well, Joe.
No, hang on. So
I was only one goal out.
You were supremely confident that this was going to win. And Vince,
I was.
in typical Vince style, it got pipped at the post.
Go hard or go home.
Why didn't you back him the place?
I've gone home. Well, you can't back Brisbane for the place. What do you mean?
I don't know. You run second all the time. so anyway, do you know how much we ended up in our bank after 27 weeks?
We called in the receivers.
Zero.
We called in the administrators and said we're going into liquidation.
No, we're not quite yet. ASIC are conducting an inquiry. So,
That's all right. I'm funded by the Victorian state government. I can go into as much debt as I like.
I don't know. So
no repercussions, no accountability, no problems.
So anyway, like I said, Enzo and a few others have said, I don't want this to be the last show. Thanks for the season. And another loss, Vince.
That's very kind of you. To all of our viewers, they've been fantastic. I've got to say,
yeah, I know.
Our viewers have been tremendous in sticking with us all year. They've put up with all of Joe's mistakes. They've put up with me talking 3 times more than I should. And they've put up with Brownie sticking it into, their favourite players and all the rest of it. But they've stuck with us and they've been tremendous with their feedback, their questions, their comments and opinions. So all of you know who you are, our regulars. Too many to name, but thanks very much for sticking with us all year.
But I do have a new nickname.
No thanks, Peter V. No.
Listen,
not my favourite politician, I can assure you.
Just in finalising, so before we say thanks, remember this week the Jumper Punch is still happening on Tuesday night.
As a matter of fact, Joe, can I interrupt you there? The Jumper Punch on Tuesday night is actually going to be live. It's going to be a live show. They normally record it on the weekend and put it up on YouTube for a Tuesday night, but this time it will actually be coming to you live from the Jumper Punch studios at 7:00 on Tuesday night. So
it is.
Make sure you tune in. I'll be popping my head into the studio as well, as invited by Rocco, and there'll be a cast of thousands coming in that night.
I'll let everybody in, Pete. Now, is Forever Rivals on this week? I haven't had a chance to speak to Rocco.
I believe it is. I believe it's on Wednesday night.
And do we?
Magpie Manny's not going to miss the opportunity of coming onto that, surely.
And do we have an interview this week, Vince?
We have part 2 of the interview with Brett Ratton. That's our last one for the year. So that's on Wednesday night at 8:30 on the Jumper Punch channel as well. So if you haven't already caught up with part 1, make sure you watch that. And that's mainly in relation to Brett's playing days. This one coming up will be mainly in relation to his coaching at Carlton. So it's a fantastic chat that we had with him. And, I've got to say I really appreciate the generosity of time given to us by all of the players and people that we've interviewed this year. They've been absolutely tremendous every time I've rung up and approached them to do it. They've been very accommodating, and we've had, I don't know how many, 25 maybe, something like that, interviews for the year. So they've been tremendous, and I really appreciate the generosity of all of those past players.
Okay, Peter, you wanted to say something?
Look, I was just going to make mention, firstly, the sadness in your life, Joe, in the last couple of weeks. The way you've been able to soldier on is fantastic. Thanks very much for being able to bring me on board. It was only supposed to be a guest performance and take off for after that was done. But that both you and Vince have made me feel welcome. Our listeners and our viewers, they've embraced some of the comments I've made. Probably disagreed with a number of the other ones I've made. However, and I said all the way through that, I've gone from a bloke that, didn't spend a lot of time watching football to being engaged with the game again and being able to comment on it, and purely only just a comment. So no expertise in there at all. And it's been an opportunity for me to be involved. Now, time permitting, I don't know what's going to happen next season at all at this stage. I've already floated the idea with Vince. So I'm not sure what will happen where that's concerned, and I won't know until that for next year. So I've enjoyed being a part of it. I've enjoyed being engaged with you guys. Thank you very much for making me feel welcome, and to our viewers and stuff, and obviously Rocco and the guys from the Jumper Punch. They were able to engage me in this, and that's fantastic. So to all our viewers, thank you very much for being involved, and thank you for some of your comments and having a crack. That's fantastic. That's what it's all about. So I've really enjoyed being a part of it, and let's see what happens next year.
Well, can I just
hang on? If truth be known, Vince, I think most people tune in to listen to Brownie and not you and me.
No, well, that's fair enough too. I mean, Brownie's the one who's played the game at the highest level and played in a premiership, and with that comes a lot of credibility, and it's not difficult to see why he is so widely respected, and how his comments have gone down really well with our viewing audience. Even some of the ones that have surprised our viewing audience, they've accepted it as his I guess learned opinion on matters, and even if they disagree, they obviously have looked at it and said, well, he knows better than us because he's played the game. And that's one of the reasons we approached you, Brownie, is because you have done that. And when we interviewed you last year on the Jumper Punch Legends series, we thought, geez, you'd be good on a show like this with us. So that's the reason for the approach. We love you, and we love what you got to say about football. And you've been an absolute treasure for us on this show. And it wouldn't be the success that it is without your input. And can I personally just say thank you very much, mate, for not only being so fabulous with your insights, but also for being so generous with your time every Sunday night and occasionally even a Monday night for the benefit of our viewers and our channel. And you've been a fantastic asset to the Jumper Punch channel. So, mate, enjoy the break. And as I said to you on our phone conversation, just give yourself a little time to chill out, have a nice little break and a holiday. And you never know, you might miss it come February, March next year, and you might want to jump straight back in the saddle again and go for another season. But look, we'll respect your decision whichever way you go, and we'll just keep our fingers crossed that you'll have the time next year, because I know the issue is mainly around time and some of your other commitments. So for no other reason that it's still a question mark at the moment. But mate, thanks again. I think I've said it all, and Joe, also to you. As Brownie said, full credit to you, mate. You've been a real soldier to keep ploughing on after all the adversity that you've experienced in the last month or so. And, mate, it's been an absolute delight working with you. And I've loved the banter and picking the hell out of you for every little mistake that you make. I hope I haven't annoyed you too much in the background.
No. I just want to tell both of you blokes, I will be conducting skin fold tests before the start of the season, okay?
Well, I'm out already.
Keep off those burgers. Vince, keep off those coffees.
I'm out already.
Never been known to do pre-season.
No, so all jokes aside, I just want to thank Vince. I want to thank Peter. I want to thank Rocco. I want to thank Rash, who stood in for a couple of times.
Yes, we should thank Rash too. Yeah, he's been fantastic.
I want to thank the viewers, because without you, we're not here. Yep. And for one last time, let's go out with...
mighty team, old Carlton goes. With all the champions they like to send up, we'll keep our end up, and they will know that they've been playing against the famous Old Dark